Hello, my lovelies, and welcome to episode 103 of the Prosperous Yogini Podcast. So, before I get into today's topic, I have an invitation to you. Episode 105, which is going to be episode 1, season 2 of the Prosperous Yogini Podcast, which is happening on the 14th of June, 1 p.m., is a live Q&A call, a live question and answer session. You're invited to come. I'm not going to be doing this recording by myself, hopefully some of you can make the 1 p.m. slot, come along and keep me company. You need to sign up even if you're not attending live, because if you want to submit a question for me to answer on your call, if you want my free advice, my eyes on your business for free, then sign up and submit me one question. All right. And I will be answering those questions live on the podcast. And if you're coming live, you're like, actually, I don't really want to show my face. That doesn't happen. Don't worry. The camera is on me. And if you're like, actually, I don't really want to speak, that's okay. You don't have to. Last year, a couple of people were happy to unmute and we were happy to have a conversation, but it doesn't have to be that way. I just need your questions, or I'll just sit quietly for an hour. No. Could you imagine that? I should challenge myself to do that. I do remember I went to Brownies, and one of my lasting memories of Brownies, I think it was what led me to leave, was I had to do a half an hour silence to get this badge. And I think I remember thinking, this badge is not worth it. But this links into my zone of genius as well. There is a reason why I chose to podcast. There is a reason why I've been so consistent in my podcasting, because this again is my zone of genius, sticking a camera in front of my face and talking. I love to talk. I love to talk to myself. I just love to talk. I love to talk to you guys. I love to talk to my friends. I love to talk to people I don't know. I just love to talk, which is why the medium of the podcast works really well for me. I'm not the best writer. I'm not the best speller. Grammar isn't my strongest point. You know, I can write. It just takes me quite a bit of time, and I have to check things, and even checking things, I miss things. Like, writing isn't my forte. You don't see me blogging a lot. In fact, and my show notes are quite simple, right? But you might be a brilliant writer, in which case, you know, blog away, start a Substack and write. I started a Substack and I've got use it for video. So this all links into what this term zone of genius is, understanding. So what we're going to do today is look at, what does zone of genius mean? How do we find it? And why do we struggle to find it? Before I go any further into today's podcast, I want to acknowledge that zone of genius is not my term and not my concept. It is Gay Hendricks, his book, The Big Leap. You absolutely need to read this book if you haven't. One of the most important books to shift my mindset in the last couple of years. And you can follow him as well on Instagram. And he's just like really cute older man with a really lovely wife. And he's just like, he doesn't show up that much on Instagram, but when he does, it's so lovely. So please go and give Gay Hendricks a follow on Instagram as well. But buy his book, The Big Leap. It is such a good book, and it's Gay Hendricks, The Zone of Genius. That he talks about. The big leap is about leaping, taking that big scary leap into what it is you're meant to be doing, what it is you're being called to do. And it's interesting, actually, it's not just your zone of genius doesn't have to actually be your job. Your zone of genius is about the fulfillment that comes from doing what you're really meant to do, to getting into that flow state. So there's stuff like we're probably quite good at, but it doesn't quite light us up. There's stuff that we might be doing because we think we should do it, but we're rubbish at it. But we tell ourselves we should do it, and like a whole load of resentment and this is hard builds up. But the zone of genius is this place where you're like, it just happens. If it's work, it doesn't feel like work. It just flows. And I want to share with you today, like, a little bit more about my business, like, along with the podcast. My business is coming into a new season, and I feel like this is me stepping more into my zone of genius and why I found it hard. So your zone of genius, where does it come from? What is it, right? Listen, I think this is interesting. It's like, is it nature nurture, a question? And I think there's so many things that come into the mix that are the create us and create the reason why we've come here to be here. So there are absolutely our life experiences, the work that we've chosen to do, the training that we've chosen to pursue. There's the influence of our friends and our family. There's our DNA, our genetic coding. There are the maps of the human design, the astrological map. I think they all come into the mix, this unique mixing pot, which makes you, which, going back to last week's episode where I had that difficult conversation about scarcity and how scarcity mindset shows up in female entrepreneur circles, actually is us not behaving very nice, bit of a negative energy, how it also stops us from taking action because we believe it can't happen for us. They've taken it all already, or I can't possibly do what they're doing. No, you can't. You cannot possibly do what they're doing, because that they're not you. You can't possibly do what I'm doing, and I can't possibly do what you're doing. And it's not about you being better than me and me being better than you. Like, it is dropping that whole competition, fear, scarcity. And Zone of Genius allows us to go, me, I am. This I am. This is what I came here to do. And I do think Zone of Genius is perhaps a fluid thing. I think it shifts and changes as we shift and change, as we have different experiences, as our body and our hormones and all of this comes into the mix. And I think the Zone of Genius moves with us. But the Zone of Genius is just this place where you're complete. If you're not, I realize at the moment, if you're not watching this on YouTube, my hands are literally coming down the center line of my body, right? Where you are just there, completely lined up with source, higher self. This is what I'm meant to be doing. This is me. And it flows and it just happens. And I'm not saying it's not hard work, right? But none of it feels hard, right? And I'm not saying there's not things that, there might be things you have to do to facilitate you into your Zone of Genius. But the Zone of Genius is a place where it just flows. And I've experienced this week being in what I feel like is like my next stage, next evolution of my Zone of Genius. And I want to share that story with you because it kind of like links into how do we find it and why it's hard to find. Because I think the book Big Leap is such a great book, and it tracks actually Gay Hendricks steps into his Zone of Genius. And it's like, I'm sure the evolution that we've all been on, we all start to do something, we're quite good at it, it's not quite right, so then we try something else and we're enjoying that a little bit more, but there's still something more to give, and we're good at this, but we're great at it, but we've actually got more to give. And you see that in the evolution of Gay Hendricks' career. And I think, like, at first, maybe you can step instantly into your Zone of Genius. Perhaps you're just like, this is it, and you go straight into it, and that's you done for the rest of your life. But I don't think human beings work like that. I think we have to go out, test, play, learn, respond, test, play, learn, respond. If not this, what about this? This didn't work out, but okay, what have I learned from it? And this feels good, and I'm going to follow this. I'm being called to do this. Okay, what if? Yeah. This is how we find and we evolve and we step into our Zone of Genius, that given moment of time and stage of our life. It's a slightly different my take on it. I'm not challenging Gay Hendricks. I love the book and everything in it is right. But I think from my own experience, I feel like I've been pretty good career-wise at like going like, at the moment, this is my Zone of Genius. But then I also noticed that, because I'm a human being and it's really unlike us to just stay in one place and not get curious, like I get led into something else and it feels like something else is coming. And this is why I think it's hard to find our Zone of Genius, because we often label ourselves, this is what I do. So like prior to having my children, I was secondary school music teacher full time for a bit, for most of my career. In fact, I, as you may know, like set up the Cornwall Skit initial teacher training program in music, PGT. Like I was like a head of faculty, like I was a very established teacher. And then I started to be called to be a yoga teacher, and I kind of like secretly trained to be a yoga teacher and had this double life for a bit where I was like this head of music, head of faculty, skit subject leader, and teaching yoga and running yoga classes. And it was hard. It was like the two lives didn't exist. They were two separate lives, like, and I didn't talk really that much about them. And I was being called more into teaching yoga. I was good. I was a good school teacher. I was a good music teacher. I was great at that job, but I was more in the flow, more lit up. I was like, this is what I'm meant to be doing. I'm meant to be teaching yoga. I'm meant to be here. So, as you know, then I went full time in my yoga business, and then I naturally fell into running yoga teacher training. And I remember the first yoga teacher training course that I delivered, and it was a pre and postnatal teacher training course, and it was after the first session. That's a bit personal. I went to loo. It was for a wee. I went to loo for a wee, and I remember walking into the toilets like it's such a cool memory going, and I said to myself, this is what I'm meant to be doing. Like, it was so strong. I was so lit up by running the training. It was going really well. Like, it was flow. And this is zone of genius. And this is why I'm telling you my story, because I think it does shift. It shifts as you evolve, but it's really hard to step into. And I've definitely massively experienced this, because Gay Hendricks talks about, we have what he defines as an upper limit problem. We don't allow ourselves to go to the next stage, the next limit, the next moment of our expansion, the next moment of our evolution, because we don't believe it's possible for us, or we don't believe we're deserving of it, or we're stuck into people pleasing, or worried what people are going to think about us, societal norms, societal conventional wisdom. And I definitely have like experienced this, but I have created it. So as you know, my business is evolving and shifting from just solely yoga teacher training and helping yoga teachers into broadening out into helping female service entrepreneurs do what lights them up and make money. And we're going to see this a lot more in season 2 of the Prosperous Yogini podcast. But for a long time, I was struggling. And this is what I was struggling with. I was like, okay, I've had the domain name Amy Yoga since 2008. I am a yoga teacher, a yoga teacher trainer. I have labeled myself. I literally am Amy Yoga. And one of my zones of genius is, one of the things I'm really good at is running yoga teacher training. Like, my educational experience and background has led me to be, excuse my language, a shit hot yoga trainer. Like, there is a whole multitude of experiences out there when it comes to yoga teachers that then step into the role of the trainer. And I think one of the things that makes me, really unique as a trainer is the 12 years that I spent in education, the 12 years I spent crafting curriculums, the 6 years that I spent running adult music teacher education and working with adults in a training environment. That has collided with me as a yoga teacher providing yoga teacher training. Like, my yoga teacher training courses, I'm quite happy to say this, they are excellent, both online and in person. I'm so proud of them, and I want to keep doing them. They are my zone of genius. It's just, I have been expanding. I am being called into other areas and to do other things, but I hit an upper limit, because I'm like, well, who am I to do this? And people are going to think that I don't want to do the yoga teacher training anymore, and I don't want to help yoga teachers anymore. And I really do. I really want to do this. But I am being called. I am feeling that my zone of genius is shifting into just helping female entrepreneurs do what lights them up and make money. And of course, all my experience in yoga teacher training, in my practice as a yoga teacher, my personal practice of the yoga, my knowledge of yoga practices, my knowledge of the human body, fascial system, sympathetic nervous system, my deep fascination with the human energy body. I mean, I just could go on. It is all colliding into what feels like my new zone of genius. But I resisted. I kept it secret. I told myself no. And it literally got to the point where, like, I often talk about the discomfort, the pain of not doing it was greater than the pain of doing it. And I definitely feel like I'm coming out into this new place where I am a business mentor and yoga teacher trainer, shifting more perhaps from Amy Yoga to Amy Jones. This hasn't been easy, but this is me stepping more into my zone of genius. This is why there is room for us all. But why we struggle to find it is, as Patanjali would say, the chitta vritti, the noise of the mind stuff, the layers and layers and layers of stuff that literally clouds our vision, that literally stops us from saying this. And I think maybe for me, like, stepping into this new zone of genius of mine wasn't so hard. I made it way harder than it needed to be. But I know for some of you listening to this podcast, what you're being called to do, what you know deep down your zone of genius is, may be so far removed from what you're doing right now that and this is the title of the book, you have to take that big leap. And people may think you're crazy, and people may question your sanity, and you may upset some people, because people have a perception, have a belief, and when you go, actually, this is not me, this is not what I want to do anymore, that can ruffle some feathers. But that's nothing to do with you. That's their lesson, their stuff that they've got to process. I'm getting a little bit better, actually. What do I say? Ruffling some feathers, poking at people, lovingly upsetting. I don't want to upset anyone, but lovingly sort of like, what's the word? As a yoga teacher, I used to like when we're moving through something and someone's meeting some resistance, some blocks, whatever it is, and then they work through it. I used to like quite enjoy that, because I'd be like, it's true transformation comes from some place of discomfort. You can't always be in a place of discomfort. You can't always be in a place of stress. The stress we want is eustress, not de-stress. But it really feels like, to step into your zone of genius, you do have to work through some shit that is keeping you small. But when you're in your zone of genius, work doesn't feel like work, and you find that flow state. And that I've experienced that this week, although I'm recording the podcast ahead of half term. This week, on Wednesday, I had the honor of leading 9 entrepreneurs through my first in-person coaching workshop called Ideas to Action. And it was me in my flow state. It just flowed. I enjoyed every minute of it. They enjoyed every minute of it. None of it felt hard. Like, it certainly didn't feel like work. I had planned and prepped. There was that, but so much of it, guess what, was me responding to their questions and what came up. Yeah, total zone of genius. It was totally my zone of genius. And I came away from that, and the only word that was there was this. This is right now what I'm meant to do. This is what I need to step into doing more. Okay. And it has been so hard to say that, because I don't want people to think I've gone mad. And then right now, when someone says to me, I had this question actually last night at my little daughter's NIFA group, like one of the parents said to me, we're like, are you still doing the yoga? And I'm like, yes, I'm still offering my amazing yoga teacher training courses. I'm still supporting yoga teachers in my mentorship program. Like, that is not going anywhere. But that's been my fear. My fear has been, if I move into this zone of genius, move into like not a different focus, but shift into like a broader spectrum of helping female entrepreneurs, that I will lose my connection to the yoga industry and yoga teacher training. And how can I? I've been a yoga teacher for 14 years, like, but all of these fears were keeping me small. All of these fears were stopping me stepping into my zone of genius. And that Ideas to Action workshop, that had three yoga female yoga teachers attending it. But I had been resisting stepping into my zone of genius. So you need to buy Gay Hendricks The Big Leap, because he explains it way better than I do. But if you've got that feeling, that calling of, I know I've been drawn to do this, and you're probably telling yourself you're not good enough. You're probably telling yourself you're not needed. You're probably telling yourself, people are going to think you're crazy if you say you're going to do this. You're probably telling yourself, I haven't got time. I haven't got the money. I don't know how to do. I'm a technophobe. I don't know how to do technical side of things. All of this stuff is all just complete lies. Okay, you know, when you have those glimmers, those moments of you doing the thing that you're being called to do at this present moment in time, and it feels so fucking good, and it feels so right, and it's just this. And if you're ignoring it, the universe, right, will poke fun at you. Right, I had been ignoring it for such a long time, and it was showing up in my life like this, either wherever I went, school run, surfing, supermarket, just out and about, just having conversations with either people I knew or strangers, right, about their business, asking me questions. I'm like, we've only just met, how we got onto this topic already? Or having, like, you know, emails, people coming into my DMs, inquiring about my services that don't exist. And it's quite common, like, I'd be like, well, at present, I, don't offer anything for you, but directing them to my mentorship program, which is so clearly for yoga teachers, and them going, that's not what I'm looking for, right? And this is happening so much. I was like, this is ridiculous. So the universe will poke fun at you, send you opportunities, send you signs, send you more obvious signs if you're not picking them up, until you start listening. Because your zone of genius, for me, is when you step into alignment with your higher self. Your zone of genius is when you step into alignment with source, when you step into, and I'm getting goosebumps, step into the reason what you came here to be here for. And it doesn't actually have to relate to your work, but your zone of genius is what is unique about you. What is it that you bring to the world that nobody else can bring? And I truly believe that every human being is here for a reason. And we all have our zone of genius, but they're crushed out of us on so many occasions. And one of the things I say that I do now is help female entrepreneurs do what lights them up and make money. That doing what lights you up, that's your zone of genius. You'll make money as a byproduct of being in your zone of genius. It's not about making money. The money will just happen as a byproduct. When you step into the flow, step into your zone of genius, things just happen. The experiences, opportunities, they just start appearing, and you're like, how is this even happening? Like, this was so hard 12 months ago. This was so hard 2 years ago, or I couldn't even imagine this is happening, but someone's just asked me to do this. This is all signs that you're in your zone of genius. So it's your flow state. It's what lights you up. It's what that, yes. How do you find it? You've got to go out and practice it. You've got to learn what you don't like to find out what you do like, okay? Because I don't want you to now go like, okay, I can't do anything until I find my zone of genius. No. If you're not sure, get out and practice, okay? Universe will send you signs, and get quiet, listen to your higher self, listen to the guidance, and know the reasons. If you're struggling to step into it, struggling to find it, struggling to believe that this is your zone of genius, know that is all the programming, the societal programming, the lies that we have been told, particularly as women, to keep us suppressed, to keep us small. And I'm like, come on, ladies, let's go. The world needs us. The world needs us. Okay. I truly, truly believe that. All right, my darlings, thank you so much for listening. So next week, episode 104 is the last one of season 1. And do please sign up and submit me a question for that podcast party on Friday the 14th of June, episode 1. God, I can't, numbers are not my strong point. I can't see how this is going to go very well. But anyway, episode 1 of season 2 of the Prosperous Yogini podcast. All right, my darlings, I'll see you all next week.